Miss Levitt says Trump made tremendous progress with Putin and Zelensky. In fact, Trump's 48-hour peace tour, from Alaska to the abyss. So, what has Donald Trump done in the last 48 hours after his grand summit with Vladimir Putin in Alaska? Well, if you were expecting a masterstroke of diplomacy or a sudden wave of international respect, prepare to be disappointed. Instead, we've witnessed a spectacle that can only be described as a diplomatic disaster of epic proportions. The summit, a masterclass in appeasement. Trump's meeting with Putin in Anchorage was nothing short of a farce. There was no ceasefire, no breakthrough, just a lot of handshakes, smiles, and empty promises. The summit ended with no tangible results, leaving Ukraine and its allies in a state of confusion and disbelief. But hey, at least the red carpet was rolled out, right? Because nothing says serious diplomacy like a military flyover and a photo op. The aftermath, a policy shift that makes no sense. In the days following the summit, Trump has been busy softening his stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He's now expressing support for a peace settlement that aligns more closely with Russia's demands, including recognizing Russian territorial claims in parts of Donetsk. This marks a significant departure from previous U.S. policy, which had been more supportive of Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. But why stick to principles when you can appease a dictator? European allies, left in the dust. European leaders are scrambling to make sense of Trump's new approach. Chancellor Merz of Germany and President Macron of France have voiced alarm over the U.S. policy shift, urging the U.S. to prioritize a ceasefire before engaging in further negotiations. But Trump, ever the lone wolf, seems more interested in playing golf than in listening to his allies. After all, who needs allies when you have Putin on speed dial? The grand plan, a meeting that may never happen. Trump has proposed a meeting between Presidents Putin and Zelensky, aiming to facilitate direct dialogue between the two leaders. However, the Kremlin hasn't confirmed Putin's participation, and Zelensky remains skeptical. But don't worry, Trump is confident that a meeting will happen if necessary. Because when has Trump's judgment ever been wrong? Face with tears of joy. Conclusion: a diplomatic train wreck. In the span of 48 hours, Trump has managed to alienate allies, embolden adversaries, and undermine U.S. foreign policy. If this is his idea of making America respected again, then perhaps it's time to reconsider the strategy. But hey, at least he got a nice photo op out of it. To Trump supporters, if you're still holding on to the delusion that your man is a diplomatic genius, it's time to wake up. His recent actions have done nothing but harm to global stability and U.S. credibility. So, spare me the excuses and face the reality. Your hero has failed. Don't bother coming back to debate. It's clear you're more interested in fantasy than in facts. Trump's 48-hour spectacle, from Alaska's red carpet to global chaos. European allies express concern. Let's talk about the Europeans for a second because, unlike Trump, they actually understand diplomacy isn't about puffing your chest and taking selfies with dictators. It's about strategy, credibility, and keeping the world from spinning off the rails, which is exactly what Trump has gleefully ignored in the last 48 hours while pretending to negotiate peace. European leaders, not exactly known for their sense of humor, have voiced alarm over the U.S. policy shift because, believe it or not, turning over the keys to Putin and legitimizing his territorial grabs is not how you inspire global respect. Chancellor Merz of Germany and President Macron of France have had the audacity to ask the U.S., yes, that U.S. currently led by a man who thinks diplomacy is a Twitter thread, to prioritize a ceasefire before blundering into further negotiations, cautioning against giving a tyrant the kind of gift-wrapped concession that makes you wonder if Trump mistook the summit for a reality TV show. These warnings underscore the widening chasm between the U.S. and its allies, who are apparently still stuck on the concept that America should have principles instead of just photo ops with authoritarian leaders. Prospects for peace. Now let's talk about Trump's so-called efforts to facilitate peace. The summit, which did not produce a single ceasefire, has somehow been spun by Trump as the starting point for future negotiations, which is rich if you consider that his grand plan involves trying to arrange a meeting between Putin and Zelensky. Two leaders with actual stakes in a brutal war, while Trump acts like a middle school kid trying to mediate a cafeteria dispute. The effectiveness of these talks is as likely as Trump understanding the difference between diplomacy and pageantry, given the entrenched positions and the complex geopolitical dynamics at play. But don't worry, Trump is confident. Because confidence apparently counts for more than competence in the Trump universe. Conclusion. In the aftermath of this summit, the international community is left holding the bag while Trump fluffs his hair, checks his reflection, and proclaims victory to anyone who will listen. U.S. policy has shifted, alliances are being tested, and the path to peace is not just fraud, it's a minefield laid out by a man who believes the art of the deal applies to nuclear threats and territorial annexations. The coming days will reveal whether this circus of a summit leads to anything remotely constructive, or whether it further entrenches conflict and embarrassment for the United States on the global stage. Though if you've been paying attention, the answer is painfully obvious. To Trump supporters. If you're still clinging to the fantasy that your orange-haired reality star is a master diplomat, wake up. He's been played, he's made everyone else vulnerable, and your so-called genius has reduced global diplomacy to a punchline. Stop pretending, stop defending, and spare me the illusions. Your hero's greatest achievement in the last 48 hours is looking good for photos while the world burns. Don't bother coming back to debate. It's painfully clear you'd rather live in fantasyland than face facts. Trump's peace parade, from draft dodger to self-proclaimed war hero. Let's set the record straight. Donald Trump, the man who dodged the Vietnam War with 5 deferments, including one for a questionable bone spur diagnosis, now has the audacity to call himself a war hero. Yes, you read that correctly. In a recent interview, Trump claimed credit for ordering bombings on Iranian nuclear facilities in June 2025, despite never serving a day in uniform. This self-aggrandizing statement has drawn sharp criticism from veterans and former lawmakers, who see it as an insult to those who actually served and sacrificed. But wait, there's more. Trump isn't just stopping at self-proclaimed heroism, he's also taking credit for brokering peace deals across the globe. According to the White House, Trump has solved 7 conflicts, including the Armenia-Azerbaijan dispute, the Democratic Republic of Congo-Rwanda tensions, and the Yemen ceasefire. While these agreements are noteworthy, attributing them solely to Trump's efforts is a stretch, to say the least. In the case of Yemen, for instance, the ceasefire was brokered by Oman, not the United States. The Houthis agreed to halt attacks on vessels in the Red Sea, but the ceasefire did not apply to Israel, which had launched its own strikes on Yemen. Yet, Trump frames this as a personal victory, further inflating his self-image. Similarly, the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace agreement, signed in August 2025, was a result of years of diplomatic efforts by various international actors. While Trump hosted the signing ceremony, attributing the entire success to his leadership undermines the contributions of others. As for the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Trump has been actively involved in peace negotiations. He has met with both Presidents Putin and Zelensky, aiming to facilitate direct dialogue between the two leaders. However, the effectiveness of these talks remains uncertain, given the entrenched positions and complex geopolitical dynamics at play. In conclusion, while Trump may claim to be a war hero and peacemaker, his track record suggests otherwise. His self-proclaimed victories often lack substance, and his attempts at diplomacy are more about self-promotion than genuine conflict resolution. So no, Trump is not a war hero. He's a master of self-aggrandizement, using the guise of peace to further his own agenda. To Trump supporters, if you're still clinging to the illusion that your man is a genius diplomat, it's time to face reality. His recent actions have emboldened Putin and left Ukraine vulnerable. So, spare me the delusion that he's some kind of master negotiator. The truth is, he's been played, and so have you. Don't bother coming back to debate. It's clear you're not interested in facts, just in fantasy. Written by Santiago del Carmen Maria, all rights reserved.